So in this video, we're gonna add that button to the post page to allow users to add an article to cache or remove it from the cache if it's already there. So that's gonna be what we're going to work on first. So we're just gonna jump in, and if we go to post.hbs, so HBS is handlebars, and that's the templating system that we use for creating ghost themes. So if you're wondering about what is all this like strange syntax, that's handlebars, and that's specific to creating a ghost theme. And we don't necessarily need to worry too much about all of that while we're trying to do all of this. So you can see here, I have a to do, and basically we just want to have a button that users will be able to click to save an article to the cache. And we're just going to actually copy it from this tutorial snippet here, just because I've set it up in a particular way, and then I'll explain how it works. So if you just copy it from that tutorial snippets directory, yeah. Then I'm just going to quickly explain. So the first thing you might notice is that I'm hiding this button by default. And this is because we don't want to show users this button if they are not using a browser that supports like Service Worker and the Cache API. We just want them to have the regular, just a plain article, and they just read it as usual. And they don't necessarily need to see the button if they can't actually even use it. Then I've given it an ID as save. Then here I have the icon, and this here is just the handlebars syntax for using a partial. So this is just me including the SVG icon. And then we have like the actual label that the user will actually see. So if I go here, actually it's not even going to be displayed because it's hidden, obviously. So what we want to do is, the first thing is unhide it. And where we're going to be working with this is if you go into the source directory JS, and you go to post and save article.js, and you can see the first thing on our to do is to display the save article button. So what we should do is first to check if there's service worker in navigator, and I also want to make sure that there's the cache in the window. I'm not 100% sure if there's like 100% overlap between service worker and navigator and caches in Windows, so I'm just checking for both. So let's say there's both. So let's look at the save article button, document.getElement by ID save, and what we want to do is just remove the hidden attribute hidden. So making sure that your gulp file is running, because this is just the source files, and it's going to be built into, if you go to assets, build post.js. So make sure gulp is running, otherwise the changes won't be reflected. So if we go back here and refresh, you'll see that we now have this save article for offline button. And the reason it's styled this way is because I've already written some CSS to style it this way. So you can go and have a look at that if you wish, but we don't necessarily need to like go into that right now. So yeah, we have our button now, and what we want to do is when the user clicks on it, it will save the article to the cache. So I just want to quickly show here. Let's just resize. If you go to application and cache storage, this is actually where we want to save the article. So cache storage is, generally speaking, best for storing anything that's URL addressable. So a web page, for example, that makes sense to store in cache as opposed to something like IndexedDB or local storage. So what we're going to do is just add an event listener, and we're just going to worry about saving it for now. When the user clicks on this, we want to add it to the cache storage. So let's just go back to our save article.js, and let's add an event listener. So add event listener, click, and let's just create a function, save article to cache. And we're just going to call this when the user clicks. Obviously, we're going to change it so that it will either be save or remove depending on whether it's already in the cache. But for now, we're just going to save to cache. So we're just going to use the cache API, and it's actually, compared to stuff like IndexedDB, comparatively like simple in the API and the way it works. So what we need to do is open up the cache, right? So caches.open, and let's just call this articles cache, right? Then it's going to return the cache. What we want to do is add this particular URL. So we can get the path or article path by just doing window.location.pathname. Then what we can do here is cache. So it's this cache, not caches, cache.add, and then we just add the URL, so article path. And that's basically all we need to do to save this particular page to the cache. And how many times have I said cache? Let's refresh and see if this works. So I'm just going to click this. And yeah, you can see in our cache storage, we have an articles cache. And then we have just one item here, which is the editor. And if you click on it, you'll see that this is the entire HTML page. And you can see it's the same URL here. You can see it's the same content here. So yeah, I mean, I told you it was going to be quite simple. So now all we need to do is handle the other part, right? So what we want to do is when the user clicks on the button, the first thing we should do is to check to see if it's in the cache. And if it is, then we will remove it. And if it isn't, we will add it. And then we'll also need to update this button so that it says like unsave or save depending on what it is. So let's actually start by writing a function that will check to see if this particular URL or this page is already in the cache. So let's go back here. Let's just add a check if article is in cache. So we're going to do something really similar to here, right? So we're going to open the articles cache, right? And what we're going to do is cache.match article path, right? And then what I actually want is to just return a boolean, right? So let's say the match. This will return if there is a match in the cache. That's what this will be returned. So what I want to return is if there is a match, I want to return true, else false. So let's actually call this function just as soon as the page loads. And whoops, what am I doing? Dot then is cached. And let's just console log this, right? So what we're just doing is checking if the article is in cache. So that's what we're doing here. And then console logging the response. So let's go back and refresh the page, go to console, and you can see true because yes, it is in the cache. And let's actually do the handling the change in this button because I think I have a style. It will turn green or something if it's in cache or black if it isn't. So let's say function update button, and this will take whether this is cached boolean. And what we'll do is save article button. So what we want is the actual label. So if I just quickly go back to this template, this is the text that we want to change, right? So I'm querying for this label within the button. Let's go back. Dot text content equals to. So if is cached, the text content should be remove. Yes, it should be. Yeah, article is saved. So remove article or click to remove article, and otherwise it should say save article for offline, right? And then what we should do is add the class, right? And let me just double check. I have some notes here to make sure I don't forget things, right? Save article button dot class list dot add saved, yeah, and then else we should remove it. So this is just going to style the button slightly differently depending on whether the article is in cache or not. So let's just double check that this works. Oh no. Well, I didn't actually do anything here, did I? So this then is cached. Okay, let's refresh. Yeah, okay, so you can see that it has the different styling. So finally, what we want to do is, first of all, create a function to remove article from cache. And as you expect, this is really simple to the save. So instead of add, we're just going to call .deletes. So we're doing essentially the exact same thing, except for we are deleting it from the cache. Then what we want to do is, when the user clicks the button, we want to first check if the article is in cache and then call the correct function depending on what it is. So let's call check if article is in cache. Then is cached. So I always get this wrong, but okay. So if is cached, right? Else. So if it isn't cache, we want to remove it, right? Remove article from cache, right? And then we want to update that button. Update, oops. And we want to pass that false, right? Okay, so we're removing the article from the cache and we're updating the button with is cached being false because we just removed it. Then we want to do the opposite here. And then set this to true instead. Okay, so I think this is all correct. Let's go back and see if this works. So let's open up our cache to just make sure everything is in place. So we have our articles cache. This article is there at the moment. So if I click this, it should remove. Okay, yeah, I can see. Let's refresh the page to make sure everything is still there. So we can add, can remove, add, remove. Yeah. Okay, so all of that actually works. Wow, everything actually worked on the first time, which is kind of surprising, but yeah. So we've done the first part of this, which is just the saving and removing articles from cache, but we still have quite a bit to do. And the next thing that we want to do is create that offline page that I showed you before. And what I want to do is just create a page where it will list all the articles that are currently in the cache. So whenever a user is offline, we can redirect them to that page if they're trying to visit a page that isn't in the cache. So that's what we're going to do next in the next video. So see you there.